You are live.
All right, welcome to OnSet. Hold on.
There it is. That's that
That's
Daniel
my
Norton
name.
opener right there. There you go.
All right, welcome to OnSet.
Attaboy.
I'm Daniel. We are here at the Adorama event space, built from the ground up by the amazing Seth, last ex-witness. Step forward.
Don't patronize me, old man.
Seth was in here all night, blood, sweat, and tears to paint this black table thingy. But that's not what we're going to talk about today.
First of all, it comes black. Second of all, I'm going to make you sweat some tears.
We're going to talk about lighting a dramatic close-up. This is Filmmaker Week, and so we're going to talk about filmmaking light. This is obviously still applicable to photography. In fact, one of the main ways that I personally get inspired for lighting is looking at cinema versus looking at photos. You know, the thing is that the photo industry, right, and the film industry keep getting closer and closer in how we do things. The tools start to overlap, the techniques that we use, the vibe you're trying to get, right? I mean, unless you want to make that portrait from 1975 in that book, you know, where everybody's like, but most of us want to do something a little different, and by looking at what's popular and what's going on in cinema, we can do that. So I am gonna go video style, so there's a cord here. Every time I bump into the cord at home, you can drink, you know, coffee. This is family friendly. Let me know how my sound sounds. Oh, I have a thing here now so I can read these. Good evening. All right, check my sound online, check my sound in person. Okay, they're just looking at me. They're just looking at me, that's all good. I'm here with Cadence. Somebody was throwing off my game, I forgot to introduce you. I'm here with Cadence and Seth on the Mighty Mix. Let's do this. All right, so what is, oh, I'm gonna triple, I'm gonna move the whole camera. Is that okay? Okay. So what, oh, I got music, nice. We're gonna get kicked off YouTube with that. All right, so what is dramatic? Like, what are we even defining it as, right? And why do we want to use dramatic lighting? So, when you are, when you're creating a portrait or shooting a scene, you want to kind of think about the mood that you want the viewer to have when they look at it, right? You're not there, or maybe you are if you have your phone like this, right? But you're not usually there when somebody's looking at your picture, right? So if you have something in mind, you're like, oh, this person's friendly, or they're, you know, mean, or they're mysterious. We want to convey that with light, expression, posing, etc. And the same is true in cinema. And oftentimes what will happen is you won't just have this like medium shot, you know, like medium shot, and then all of a sudden punch in, or if they do, it's actually, if they do it well, it's usually lit differently. They actually light it differently because light changes based on where it is in the shot, right? We know from photographers that we usually want to put our light close, right? If somebody says, where should I put the light? Where should I put the light? I just said it. Where should I put the light? Close. Close, right? That's usually a good idea. If you put the light close, you have more control over it. You don't have to eat up all your power. There's lots of reasons to have your light close. But if I'm shooting a movie and I'm standing here, which we are, right? Are these lights close to me? Not really, right? They can't be. They'd be in the shot. So what we have to do is we're creating here kind of a high key, flat lighting. Like if I was on Seinfeld or something. Is that still a show that people know what that is? That's probably old now. Okay, you know what that is, right? All right, all right. Yeah, you know, or Frasier. The kids are like Frasier now. All right, right, there you go. Right, you ever been there? I don't think it's there anymore, though.
Yeah, I passed by it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a good soup. Anyways, yeah, so, yeah, you know, because you want the person to be able to move around and be evenly lit. Right? But when we want to get in there and get intense in their face, we want to light it with tighter light. And we can do that in cinema lighting when we're doing a close-up because obviously we don't have all that background. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to walk through a few different ways of doing this using different types of techniques. And I'll kind of, different types of equipment. And I'll kind of throw some photo stuff out there for the photo people, you know, what you might use instead, because I'm using hot lights or cinema lights. Okay, also for that person that wants to ask all the time, I brought a light meter. Why I might use a light meter in this versus, let's say, stills, is because, well, when I am doing stills, I am using a light meter with flash because I'm using TTL, which means I'm using a meter in the camera. You can look through if you're using a mirrorless camera, or obviously if you're using a film as in video camera, you can see the exposure, but sometimes we want to set our lights ahead of time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about light meters and why you might use them. Yeah, I think that's all we're going to cover today. That seems about right? Any questions you have online or here, feel free to ask. I probably won't answer, but you can ask them. It'll be nice. All right, if you have answers, those are also good. I almost pulled it over. That's number one. All right, so we're going to frame this up. Now, you can get, close-up has a lot of different, some expert will tell you exactly what it is. But, anything that's like shoulder up, usually we'll punch in real close. You can get just the eyeball. We get part of the face. We're going to stay a little further back on this, then we'll kind of move in. Now, one thing that's a little different here than you might think for stills photography is, generally, if I'm going to do like a close shot of somebody's face, like real close, one of the first things I'm going to do in a still shot is I'm going to use a longer lens. Why am I going to do that? Not because their breath, don't say that. No, because it compresses things, right? And it gives you that feeling like they're set back, right? Where it's more statuesque. It's a still photo. You're trying to create that power. But in a film, typically when you're doing a close-up shot, you want it to be intimate. You want to feel what the person's feeling. You want to be close to them, which means we need to use a wide-ish lens. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to use somewhere in the vicinity of 35 to 50. 35 is real nice, but we're not in a big enough space. I think we're going to need a lot of background if we do that. So we're probably going to stay around 50 millimeter. So not only am I going to be close in the picture, I'm going to be close relatively physically with the camera as well. Okay. Can you use a longer lens? Yes, of course you can. But this is where we're going more filmmakery. And it will create a different vibe. When you're close to somebody, I mean, just think about it. It's funny because we sometimes think of photography or filmmaking like different than life, but it's just what you're looking at, right? When you get close to somebody, it changes the way it feels, right? You don't see as much around them. You don't notice as much in the background. They become, parts of them become bigger, their eyes, right? And that's what happens when you use a wide-ish lens and you get close. If I use a long lens and I back off, I'll be physically close, like in the shot, but it won't give me that same feel of being there. And that's what we want to emulate that here. We want to be close to cadence. We want to be close. Okay. Anyways. All right. So I'm using an Nikon that people always ask. I'm using an Nikon Z6ii. Usually when I'm shooting video, I like to pull my little screen out, just because the camera runs a lot, just to manage heat. I've never had it really overheat, but the paranoia. On top, I have an Adorama Ninja 4, which is a recorder and a monitor. And this is going to allow us to do a lot of different things. If you do a lot of video stuff, I recommend something like this. It's really useful. Basically, we're going to pump our signal through this so that at some point, Seth will be able to show it to y'all. I say y'all. Am I suddenly from the South? All right, so. Well, I'm from South Jersey. All right. So, no, I'm not. I made myself laugh. All right. One thing I'm going to do here, too, is I'm going to give you some basic camera settings before we get going. Because I might want to shoot log, Nikon log or N-log, I'm going to shoot at 800 ISO because that is what I've found by reading lots of things on the internet, is the best ISO to be at with this recorder and this camera. So I'm at 800 ISO, not because I need to be. I mean, I could blast her with light, but because the recorder takes in the light best that way. I'm going to be at a 60th of a second because I'm shooting 30 frames per second. I like to shoot 30 frames. If you're like a cool movie maker, you might shoot 24 frames, in which case you would go 50. Generally, your shutter speed is double your frame rate. Okay? And then our aperture is, once again, going to be based on just what we want. I'm going to put it around 5.6 to get started. I might go down to f4 to get really cool. And I'm going to change my white balance here to tungsten. And the reason why I'm doing that is because one of the lights I'm using is an incandescent light, a tungsten light. So I'm going to set my white balance to 3200, which is what it's at, so I must have done that earlier. And now we're good to go. So what that's going to mean is if I use a daylight balanced light, like let's say a flash or these lights in the space here, everything's going to look a little blue. This is basically one of those cool techniques that you can do. Cool, because it's blue, cool. No, nothing? Okay, that's all right. We're working on it. Questions so far? Am I talking too fast? I haven't had that much coffee. And you're used to Seth, who talks a lot faster than I do. All right. Slight echo.
I got it.
Oh, and do I sound like Elvis? No. Because Elvis had a lot of echo on them.
Moving on, Dan.
All right, moving on. All right, so let's start with basically a type of light that you might use for a non-dramatic shot, which would be like a softbox. This is a nan light. It's nice when they write on the side of it what it is, because then it makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. This is a nan light mixed panel 150. Seth just gave it to me, so hopefully it works. And it's a softbox. It's like 18 inches by 24 inches roughly. It's a decent size for like a portrait. It's horizontal because everything in Filmmaker is horizontal. All right, I'm gonna turn it on so it's not blasting, or whenever you're turning on a hot light, you generally want to say, I'm turning on the light, or hey, look over here. No, when you turn on a light like this, especially, this isn't that bad because it's in a softbox, but some of these other lights, and I say this, I joke, but whenever you're like, I'm gonna turn the light on, don't look, people, what do people do? They look at the light, yeah, so wait a second before, they always do. And what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start off with basically a very evenly lit, was that a grid? Yeah. Nice. All right, if you wanna really get paid, let's get down to this. Grids. People like grids, you throw a grid on your light, it's like, boom, done. So this is an egg crate style grid. I mean, no, that says like medium mix. Yeah. So what the grid does is it's going to control the spread of light. So we have a little bit more control. And like I say, it's egg crate style, unlike, let's say, a beauty dish, which would have more of a, like a hex. All right. It's a rectangle. I should be able to figure this out. This is like those books that you, that you have when you're in kindergarten. How does this thing work? All right, there we go. Alrighty, so we're gonna plug this in because whenever Seth hands me something, I use it. That's just how I operate. Oh,
Yeah, but do you use it properly? Because that's a perfectly placed grid, don't you think? No, it's not. Do you want me to do this for you? You all right?
No, it's good.
Does someone know where you are, Dan?
I got this. I got it. All right, here we go. We're gonna put the grid on here. All right, the grid is gonna give us a little more control over where this thing goes. And we're gonna start off with kind of more of a, oh, this is also messed up. With a more kind of even flat light. So we're gonna start not dramatic. The trick here is never just go right to drama. You gotta work your way up. You wanna get paid for this. You want somebody to think it's too easy, right? So, all right, let's kill the lights and just see what this looks like. Nice, all right, so, oh, that's actually kind of dramatic. Damn it, no, okay, so what we're gonna do, so what makes something dramatic generally is what you can see and what you can't see, right? So, if I bring this light up, I'm turning the dimmer up, I think. Yeah, there it is. It's getting brighter, right? Yeah, okay. And I'm feathering the light in towards her, and you can see how we're controlling this, right? Darkness. Now, this is from the sides, adding some shadow. It's relatively even. We can put it more central on her. And that's gonna create light that's a little bit more open. And if we want any mystery here, it's gonna have to come from cadence. Because this is basically, this light is giving us everything we wanna know, right? So there she is. This is nice and simple. Obviously it's hitting the background because we're just starting out here. If we want to create more drama, we need to create interest, shadow, something that's gonna make us feel like, hey, what's going on there? What's happening? Why is it like this? As far as the light, I mean, obviously, however she acts is also gonna matter. We can do that simply by feathering the light back, right? And you can see immediately, you see how we're getting more shadow there? Right, and depending on where we place it, we can get different amounts of shadow. So if we ever turn her face, we can we can light her away from the camera, and immediately we're adding a little bit more, right? You can see how just that a little bit, even with this soft light that's pretty flat and, we're trying not to break this. All right, this is how you, yep, okay. First time. I'm gonna give a little tilt to this. It's important to always have a little tilt to your lights because we want some directionality. All right, so that's pretty simple. Now, we can see that already we can get a little bit of mood just by having her turn slightly of the light feather. But what did I say about lighting earlier? I'm gonna keep asking you until you get it right. It's supposed to be what? Close. Again, we can do that. The closer we put our light, the more rapidly the fall off is gonna become. And just by doing that, all of a sudden, the exact same thing we did before, might have messed with our exposure. No, it's still pretty good. It's a little hot. Turn it down a little bit. Notice, by the way, I'm adjusting the light, not the camera.
What are your settings?
Okay, currently I am at 60th of a second, 5.6, 800 ISO. And I'm gonna just dial the light down to get us the exposure that we want. I am at tungsten white balance. And we can see by putting it closer, we already add a little bit more shadow, right? Simple as that, right? Easy. And this is, we're not even there yet. We're starting here, right? But you can see that even if you just have a softbox, you can create things that have a little bit more punch and drama just by thinking about where your shadow falls. This is a very simple setup. If I have her look more off this way, exactly what she's doing. See that? Boom, turn like this. And then she looks up because she sees something interesting, and boom, we have some interesting light. This side of her face is a little bit dark. We can add light into that eye. We don't want to fill it, right? Like if there's a still picture, you might go, oh, I have this Brooklyn reflector here, right? But if we add too much, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Because it's going past it. Yeah. No, I understand that. I was just watching the blue go away. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go this way. Yeah, I gotta kill it. Let's kill the grid. The grid's not working for us for this. So if we want to be able to bounce light in, which I don't want to do anyways, but I was just gonna demonstrate it. We don't really want the grid for exactly what Seth said. We need the light to go past our subject so we can bounce, right? With that, my hand's in the way, obviously. With that, we can fill in, but now we lose everything, right? I mean, yes, it's in the shot, I know that, but that's not what we want. If we want to add something to that light, to our eye, we're gonna have to light it. This is where we have to really start thinking about more precise light. We will get there in a second, but you can see how just adding a reflector kills that, because we don't want to flatten the light. We want the shadow. That make sense so far? We want the shadow. Write that in your notebook. All right. Where should the light be? Close, that's right. And what do we want? Shadow, right? Yes. Photography is lighting. I agree. All right, so let's back off a bit with this for a second. How you guys doing? Am I going too fast? No, right? All right, we can maybe get this. Oh, you did turn it on. Okay, look at Seth. He's got this thing. This is really good space here. It's very, very chill. You guys like it? Nice, right? When you put the little, like a form at the end, say that this should be coffee. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, so the thing is, if we just throw one light up on her and we get our little shadow on her face, that's fine, right? That's stuff we can always do. But we want to add depth. Depth is another thing. We want to make it so that there's a reason. We're creating a scene here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do depth. I'm going to kind of walk through each of these things, then we're going to put it together, just in case you've not seen one of these before. I got to edge it up a little bit, right? Cadence dose. This right here. Nobody saw that. This is a dado light LED. I'm going to use my regular dado light in a second, but this is basically a focusable light. It's got a lens on the front. In this case, you can see me, right? A spherical lens. This is going to allow us to focus the light. We got some barn doors. We're going to make a little bit of shape with this, because the softbox is great and we can throw a big area of light, but this is going to let us put the light exactly where we want it, and also exactly how much light we want, because we have the ability to dim it. So let's jump over here. Right now I'm going to use it in the, it's always important to take your most expensive light and make it do the most mundane thing. So first thing we're going to do is point it at the background. All right, we'll put this over here. All right, so I'm going to fire it up. This is in daylight right now. This is also a 5500, so it's going to come out more blue than the other light. I'm going to use the barn doors to create a very simple shape on the background just to get us started. Now, I'm putting this light on the background from the same direction as my key light, or this light. That's so that everything feels correct. If you want kind of a bounce back, you don't want it to feel right, then having it come from the other direction can also work, and we'll talk about that as well, because, you know, come a little closer. There we go. All right. So we're gonna look to the camera. I'm gonna raise a little bit. There's like a thing on the background. There's a weird shadow back there, but that's okay. We're gonna work it there. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this to get it where we want it in the shot. Now again, we can talk about exposure here, because do we want detail or not in that, right? Do we want it to be blown out? Do we want detail there? And this is where we can start talking about dynamic range of how much your camera can take and all that. That's, you know, people love to talk about that, but this is the practical use of it, right? If we want this to be within the range of our camera, this is where we could use the light meter. We know that we're at 5.6, and that's where we're going to expose, right? If we know, let's say, off the top of my head, let's say this is like, we have like 2 stops that we can work with pretty easily. It's probably way more than that, but let's just say 2 stops. We know that we don't want this to be any brighter than 11. If it's brighter than 11, then we're gonna lose detail, right? Because 11 would be 2 stops. So I'm gonna come in here to the hottest spot, and I'm gonna press my light meter, and it's at f8. So at f8, we're only 1 stop brighter. I know I can recover that in my post, so I'm good to go. This is important because, especially in a film, you wanna make sure things are consistent. We wanna know where they're at. So the camera is gonna be recording on exposure, 5.6. The background is 1 stop hot, right? So we'll come back in and we'll take our light back in here, again with our grid. And we'll lose these guys. Can I lose that one? That one's lighting. Yeah. And again, we'll do the same thing. We've got just that little bit. We can just start to bring it in until we get a little bit of what we want. Right? And now not only is she, exactly, this is how she looks at me all the time. This is, what are we doing here, Daniel? No, so not only is she like in this kind of dark, shadowy light, there's a bright light behind her, right? Think about, I mean, I'm thinking about how I am right now. Guess how you guys look? Exactly like this, very dramatic. There's bright light behind you, right? You're in a bar scene. You're on the street, right? There's light behind our subject, and that pushes her forward in our shot. And we can use the angle of the light to mimic or to go against. This light is blue, right? To add some nighttime vibe, some funky vibe to it. It's blue because it's daylight and this is tungsten, right? I could very easily match the color. And if I do that, you'll see that some of that drama that we're creating is gonna start to go away a little bit, because now everything becomes a little more normal, right? Now all the lights now it's a background slash, right? Now it's an interview, right? Whereas just having a little bit of color, right? Just something to set us off. And I can go a little bit cooler. I can go to 68, so that makes it kind of extra blue. And of course, there's all kinds of LEDs that can, like this one in particular that I have, the Snan light, can be just about any color you want. So if we want to play around with that, we can, and we will, as we go through this. Any questions so far? Can you can see me? Yes, sir.
Do you have a very simple definition for dynamic range?
Sure. Do I have a very simple definition for dynamic range? That's a very good question. So the dynamic range of your camera is basically, if you think about the brightest spot and the darkest spot, anything within the dynamic range, let's say it's 3 stops. So if it's if you go darker or brighter than that, or darker, you'll lose your information. Non-recoverable, we'll call it that, right? That's basically simple. It can get more technical than that, but I'm not the right person to ask. That's basically what it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Oh, that was a good question from the audience online. You better come up with some good. Oh, Rembrandt. Hold on. What? I don't know, guys. Online, the audience is asking good questions. All right. So here we go. We know we want to be close, right? We know we want the light to be give us some shadow. We know we want to have some separation. Let's start digging into what we can do with maybe some more precise lighting. Yep. Okay, we have a question. Oh, no, we did, but then Seth deleted it. Why'd you make it green? I can't read it. What would you do to a background light to compress the values of your subject? Compress? Not sure I understand. Compress like to make it seem
Just
dark?
elaborate so Dan knows who you're talking about, right?
Yeah, okay, so I'm reading the sign. Okay, I'm reading it. So let me read it out loud. Okay. What would you do to the background light to compress the values of your subject? I'm not sure if, give me another way, say that in a different way. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by compress. Okay. So we have our subject, and again, we have the background light. We can also, the other thing we can do, if we want to add a little bit more kind of like depth and drama, more control. Again, remember, I am a victim of my space, right? We're in the space. You can see with almost no light in here that there's still some light, right? So we're not gonna be able to get things perfectly black, but we definitely can use our lights to create different vibes, right? So if we just bring this light in over here on the side, we can see that even with just that little bit, the background really gets lit, 'cause I'm using a gray background. So this light up front is just throwing too much light in towards our background to give us that dark background. So if we want, we're gonna have to think about our lights differently. Instead of taking your big soft light, which would be your normal key light in most cases, we can use this for something else. We can use this either a separation light. So let's do that. let's jump back and rethink how we use lights normally. Because you know this data light's going to become the key light. Everybody saw that coming. All right, so if we take this guy and we spin him around this way, we can actually use this thing, assuming it's not in my shot. It's just at the edge of the shot, I think. We can bring it in to just give her a little bit of kind of an imperfect edge, right? All right, we'll leave it this color for now, but I'm probably gonna do a little swapping. Actually, what color should it be? Let's get a color. Pick a good one. Purple. Oh, didn't you know? I have purple ready. I knew you'd like that color. That's for you. All right. We've got this light here. And we can use this. Imagine somebody's coming out from, I'm blind here, but I know, coming out from like a lit area, right? Like, again, as you're coming in from outside, you get the moon, right? You get these things. We can use a bigger light source to give us a separation, then we can light her with a more precise light, like this dado light. So again, this right here is set at, don't look right at it. This is set at daylight. I'm gonna actually bring it down to tungsten, because again, I want her to be properly, the proper color, skin tone and such. So I'm gonna start with this light here, and we're gonna use a harder light on our subject, which is something that we don't always use when we're doing stills, but in this sense, we might be able to get something a little more interesting. So I do this slow and bring it up. Look at how bright that is. Hard light is gonna be much brighter, right? Because it's not going through all that diffusion. So we can dial this guy down quite a bit to just start to get what we want. What we can start to get here is, some shadow wasn't there, but we can start to get basically light that is giving us some shape and form and mystery, and possibly this is compressing the subject, I don't know. Okay, hold on. Did they restate? Oh, limit value range. Oh, okay, well, if you want to limit the value range of something, you want to use a more flat light, right? You want light that doesn't, that covers the area better. So actually moving a light further back, or even using the light as I first turned it on, would do that. So what they're asking about is making it so it's not like, if I'm understanding it right, bright to dark, but rather more even. That's just put the light flat, basically.
I can put on some kind of light because it's just a black.
Yeah, put some liner. See how Seth ruined the, that's fine.
Yeah,
You can put it on while it sets above. Well, I mean,
totally dark live stream really helps us.
well, they can see her, right?
Like that. Doesn't really rest over her.
Cool, yeah, perfect. We got it, we're working it out. So also, if you need an extra light in the background, you just ask Seth to turn this on. So what I'll do, just so that all works here, so you guys aren't, sorry online, but you know, this is how it works sometimes. I'm gonna add another light from this side to kind of work with that. Because we have this light that, so we can see a little bit. You can see me. I know you want to see me. Good. This thing, this is my pride and joy. She makes a lot of noise, jiggling around. This is a dado light. This is a tungsten light, hot light, as we say. And the coolest part about tungsten lights is if you want to use tungsten lights, you have to have these cool gloves. You'll notice I have these cool gloves here. And watch this. There's a little thing for my belt. Watch, I'm gonna do this. You ready? It's very exciting. Oh yeah. Nice, right? All right, so they're not hot yet, so I'm not gonna worry about that. All right, so tungsten light, same thing, I can dim it, but this is why we started off 3200, so we can do this. I'm gonna give her a little separation light from the back, here. This does get hot, so you gotta be, that's why the gloves. Same deal, I'm just gonna dial it down all the way, and I'm gonna put my hand in front of it, and I'm gonna say, don't look at the light, and then she'll look, and then That way, kids. There you go, yeah. And see how when it's not on her hair, we don't see it the same. Right now it's just on her face. So depending on how we're gonna do this scene, she might move through different parts of this. And I'm using the barn door here. I don't know how much you can see about that. There we go, bring that up a little bit. And we're just starting to get a little bit, I know it's dark, but that's kind of part of the idea here. Okay. Okay, yeah, you can see it good on that screen. Okay. And we can see how we're starting to, now, I think the purple's a little much. Sorry. I knew you wanted purple, but, you know. But again, we can mess with that. I have this in gel mode, which basically is just giving us a lavender gel. But what we can actually do with this is we can go to hue mode. I knew I got in hue. And with this, we can actually dial it to get exactly the color we want. I think I'm going to go on the bluish side to kind of do a little contrast here. And then we can actually jump in on our saturation. So we just get a little bit of it. Right, so we can start to get it. And then we can mess with our dim. We can start to get some areas where it feels a little bit more natural, if that makes sense, right? Okay, how's that look? I'm being blinded here. Now I know how you guys feel. Now, yes, we are in there's a wall area with the things, so we have a shadow. If we were in a space, we wouldn't have that shadow behind her, but if you don't want a shadow, we can just move the light as well. So if you're doing a portrait, let's say, because people ask about this all the time, if there's a shadow in your shot somewhere, where you move your light matters, right? So if I move it this way, you see the shadow's getting sharper. If I move it this way, it goes away. So I can actually just bring my light around. Now I'm blinding people in the front row. That's part of the joy of being in the front row. And then there we start to get a shot where the shadow's further over. We can control where it goes based on that, right? Obviously, depending on what we want. Cool. All right. Making sense so far? Questions, thoughts, concerns? No concerns. Well, that's okay. Audio okay?
Yeah, I got it.
Audio left the room, okay.
I got it.
Uh-oh. Seth muted me. They want green.
Great lighting, not green lighting.
Oh, okay. I was like, all right, well, I mean, green's possible. Okay, good. That was actually much faster than I thought. Thanks for coming. No, okay, we'll keep going. Okay, so let's go back to where we were, because now I'm using hard lights, chopping her out of the background. Let's start turning things off and see where we're at. We started with this soft light because, you know, I figured photographers, we like soft boxes. But let's just kill this for a second. See how much of a difference that makes. Now she's just sitting there in the darkness, right? If we want to work with somebody in darkness like this, we have to go back to our first thing, which is where do you put the light? Close, right. So we can move the lights in and really start to cut her out with these lights, as long as we don't get them in our shot. That's really the key here, obviously. We can start to move these guys in. And we can start to work with some contrast. Here's where we're going to start thinking about, so I'm going to have you working away from the audience. We can really start thinking about that dynamic range we were talking about, right? Like where can we push this that's somewhere where our camera can still handle it as far as our dark to light, but it still works for us, right? Contrast is kind of important here because you can definitely make a muddy scene, right? And we see this a lot when people are trying to make something dark, they just make everything dark. And then, but the thing is, nighttime is, when we think about night, let's say, night is not like everything's just dark, I guess, unless you're in the middle of a field somewhere, right? It's pockets of light, right? When you look out in the street at night, what you see is a shop lit up. You see a headlights go by. You see things. So we're trying to create a mood for that, you know, because people figure night is more moody, right? Then we think about pockets of light. Not that they're dark. They're actually exposed properly. They're just in zones, right? So not flat. So if we come here and we start with a little bit of a pop there, this is already just a little bit dark, right? There's not a whole lot going on here. If we had a background we could light up, obviously that would be fine. But I think what we want to do is go real dramatic with this. And I want to use another little tool. You can turn the lights on for a second, Seth, please. And I want to use another tool because, you know, I like stuff. I carried it all the way here from my studio. This is a DP 1.1 projection attachment. So what we often use this for is throwing gobos or patterns, right? Which we can also do, we can mess around with. But what we can use it for here too is very precise lighting. If you're doing product photography, for instance, we see this a lot where you just like just the label, that kind of stuff. But in this case, the label is going to be cadence. All right. So I'm going to put the projector on there, and by itself, it's just basically a way to focus or defocus the light in a circle, which you'll see. I'll just do it in the background so you guys can see what it looks like. But that was anticlimactic because I had it turned down. So here we have a little circle of light, which everybody who's never used one of these is already going, oh, circle of light, because that's always fun. But that's not necessarily going to give us what we want. Here, what we want to do is give some kind of shape and form. And what I'm going to use is one of my favorite things. It's such a simple thing. So simple, I don't know what to do with it. And it's what's called framing shutters. So these are kind of like barn doors in a sense, but they're internal. Okay? We're going to put the framing shutters into the light, and it's going to allow us to shape the light. Now, this is a good test for you because they're backwards. So if you ever used a 4x5 camera, you know what I'm talking about. That is to say, you see I'm putting it in the top. I'm like a magician here. And when you put it in the top, it cuts off the bottom. So you got to kind of work them like a mirror. Let me just do this where I'm not pointing the light at cadence. I'm going to stick these in there. They do make a projector that has these built in, but I don't like it as much because I like to put other stuff in there as well, and that projector only does the framing shutters. So I'm just going to stick these in first. I'm just putting them in the, it's like I'm putting swords into a, I probably should have been a magician. It might be too awkward to be a magician. All right. All right. So we're going to put these in, and again, I'm just putting them on the wall for now. And we can see that we can control exactly what we light with these by moving them in and out and side to side. All right, you see how I made that little like window there? And we can then control where we're going to light on cadence. So I'll dial it down a little bit so we're not blinding her. Oop, that's the wrong one. And we can get it in place. And the other thing about this is we can focus and defocus it. So we can see it's defocused there. And we can actually sharpen it, make it less sharp, right? So this helps us start to create something that's a little more organic with our light. So if we want to use this to light our face, we can start to bring it over. Like how they lit Morticia.
You remember that in the Ass Family, every shot she had this on her face?
Yeah. Somehow I slid it wrong. Hold on a second, guys. I might have put these in wrong. Sorry about that, kids. That's why you shouldn't talk and put things in at the same time. This is why you should buy the ones with the built-in. It's easier. Oh, there we go. All right, so we're gonna make a little bit of like a slash. Okay, turn sideways. And this is gonna allow us to control exactly where the light is on her face. We can bring this in, dim it a little bit. We're going to get in closer, of course. There's different lenses. So for those people that love lenses, you can get different lenses for this, but I just have the 85 on there. And we can actually, I did this shot for the thumbnail, so anybody who's watching the video is probably like, oh, is that how he did it? We should just do one eye. Yeah, let's just do one eye. And what's cool about this is we can really come in and precisely get what we like. Right, there you go. Yeah, and we can be super obvious about it. We can also be more subtle and just bring it in a little bit, like that. And then what's cool about this, that's the cool thing, but this is the thing I was talking about. Very specifically, this is the eye attachment. So it just goes on there, and it has effectively glass, right? Frosted glass that will allow me to soften the light. And it's going to make it basically less, is that camera?
Do you see the question?
Oh. Why don't you use a snoot? Well, the reason why you don't use a snoot is threefold. One, a snoot just always creates a circle of light. Two, a snoot, you cannot sharpen and de-sharpen it. And three, you don't have an eye light attachment for the snoot. I'm trying to use this. So, but yes, you could use a snoot, and then you could use like cards or something to block it. It's definitely possible. In the photo world, you can definitely do some different stuff. And as soon as I get this set up, I will talk a little bit about that. So that's a good question. All right, so we have this. This is creating, again, that kind of Morticia Adams shot. And what we can get here, too, is we can use this as part of our scene, because she could like lean back a little bit and then come into it, right? We can have her move through it. She can turn sideways. I can actually move it in the scene, right? She can move in and out of the light where we put it, because it's a very precise light. So we can use this either to do, if we're doing a portrait, we can just put it exactly where we want it. If we're doing a scene, we can actually line it up. And then she can move in and out of it. And we can, again, open and close it. We can do a reveal. There's so many things that we can do just by moving this light around. These lights are the same right now. If we want, actually, can we kill these again for a second? Just so we can see where we're at, because right now we're really flat. There we go. So people can see what this is really doing. So that's really, really, really precise, right? So what we can do, come this way a little bit with your face. Yeah, so here she is, kind of masked, right? But you can turn that one back on, sorry, Seth. What we can do now, if we come back to this light, and we go, you know what? We don't want her to be completely no detail. Now we can take this guy, and we can do kind of what we were talking about earlier with the idea of flattening the face. We want to light a shadow. We want to create a baseline shadow, or shadow detail, I should say, within the dynamic range of our camera. So if I take this light and I put it here, let's say, I'm going to kill the grid. Thank you, sir. I can turn this on. I'm going to turn this on. At first, it will ruin the picture, because it'll be way too bright. But then we can look at this and go, all right, let's set up a baseline shadow. So what I'm going to do, again, just because we're doing a demo here, I would have done this first, but you know, you got to. It's all about the drama. It's blue right now, yeah. Yeah, I definitely want it to be blue, but really we want it to be purple, right? We're going to come back in. That's wrong. And we're going to go to our lavender gel. Right now, she's looking very lavender. It looks nice, actually, right? But it's too bright, right? It's too flat. So the person that was asking before about flat, this is basically flat. If we come in, though, and we just start dimming this down, so we can get to the point where we're basically just coming in. Well, that's interesting. The color changed. Huh. Oh, because it's emulating. Oh, that's really cool, but not what I wanted. Okay. It's actually emulating what would happen when you do the light, because if you use a tungsten light and you dimmed it, it would get warm.
Like she's in euphoria.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's not really what I wanted, sadly. So I will cheat, and I will come in and I will color correct it up to. All right. Well, you know what? That's what I wanted. So there we go. We can dim this down to basically create a baseline shadow. I'm actually turning this thing down. It's at 1% right now. So we're at 1%. I paid all kinds of money for this light. 1% is all I'm using. That's all right, though. Now we got our pretty much our baseline. It's actually still too bright. Ugh. Seth gave me a really bright light. So we're going to come in here and we're going to create our baseline shadow. Once we have our shadow level set, then we can come in and start messing with our other lights, right? So now we throw on our background. Never turn on the key light first. That's what the audience wants to see. We got to keep you in suspense. All right. Ah, almost fell over. You see that? All right. So now when we look at her, we're getting that light, right? Which of course looks terrible right now, but she's going to work this way with her face, right? And we didn't lose her, right? We had this shadow, and of course the shadow is pinky colored. Then we bring our regular light in, and now we've got depth and mood to our shot. Oh, that thing's still not exactly where I want it. There it is. And then move your face this way slightly, boom, and then up, and then boom, right? And now we're able to create whatever level we want, right? And we can dim any of these lights to give us the exposure we want. Again, we're always going to want to work with the lights not with the camera. Once we're set, we don't want to change the camera, because if we change the camera, all the lights will be affected, right? But if we change a light, we're individual. We can come in and we can start to create shapes and forms. And this, of course, is just a simple, basically a slash, right, is all we're making here. We can do all kinds of stuff. We can throw patterns and shapes, and you can really, get nuts with this, which I like to do. All right. Nothing more entertaining than watching me mess with the leaves all day. All right, so, so again, we're able to add, it's texture, it's with light, it's color that creates kind of a texture. It adds shape, right? Because we're digging into it. And again, we can actually, if you're looking at this too, you probably get a better view there. Now, we do have a few issues. If she's moving, now again, if it was a still picture, I'm gonna light this a little differently. The reason why is because I don't want her to be so stuck. In a movie, sometimes people move into bad light. That just happens, and nobody cares because that's like where they're moving through. But here, this is our good still light, right? Chin up a little bit. But if she goes this way with her face, boom, we're bad, right? So we can either, or maybe you love that. No, you don't love that. Okay. If this is our situation, we want to think about our light and think about where it is, and we can just go, all right, well, we don't want to hit her nose, so I'm just going to use these barn doors and just shape the light a little bit differently. Oh, there we go, better. If I had the barn door on correctly, it would have been better. And then we can shape it so that it's not going to hit her nose as much, right? We can bring it back all the ways to here if we really wanted to. There's all kinds of stuff we could do. Really, the light should be back here further. If Dave was here, he would do this better. And we can work through where we want to be so she gets some more movement. So we can play around with that, right? Make sense? All right, that's almost all the toys I brought. All right, questions, thoughts, concerns? Hold on. Same principles kind of apply to Flash? Yep, 100%. Oh, right, I said I was going to do this and I didn't. So, you can turn the lights back on for a second. I want to cover a couple things. Thank you, kids, for being blinded. So, many of you probably watching this and also here might also be still photographers or only still photographers, and you may not use constant lights. So what could we use? It was a thought about a snoot, right? So I'm not gonna do it because I don't have it with me, but I'll talk about what I would do a little bit if I didn't have, right? So you can get barn doors for Flash. In my experience, I don't think they work that well. For this light, if you were using Flash, I'd probably use a strip. Strip bank, small one, grid. It's not gonna be exactly the same, but it'll be close enough. This is just simply a softbox, right? It could be gelled. For this, you could use a snoot. If you're gonna use a snoot, you're gonna have to do a couple things to it. You're gonna have to take some cardboard, put it in front to create your own shutters. It's not going to have that diffused effect though, because it's gonna be hard in front of your light. You could take some diffusion paper and put it outside that. You're not gonna have as much control, but it will give you a slash of light. That would probably be what I would do. Or you could cut a hole in, if you didn't have a snoot, cut a hole in a piece of cardboard, put a little diffusion over it, hold it up, that would also work. Just a little more complicated, but it is possible. Yep. Another question. Do I find models prefer Flash and actors are used to glaring constant lights? What I found with constant lights is that it takes everybody a time to get used to it, right? So, am I hiding? I want to be in the light. Am I in the light? I look good, right? I'm lighting myself. What I found is that you gotta let somebody get used to it. You know, everybody's gonna have a problem with a bright light in their eyes, no matter who they are. So, I actually find people blink more with Flash. So if it's an inexperienced person, I find constant lights can be nice because Flash makes people blink. Constant lights, you just don't want to shine a hard light in somebody's eye for a long period of time, you know, unless you're mean. Also, you gotta put your gloves back on the thing. Yeah. Yep. Okay, another question. Do you find models prefer Flash? Oh, hold on. Should join Adorama Discord. What? Hold on. Oh, easy breezy. What's that shaping the light thing called? This right here. This is a projector, a projection attachment. They do make these for Flash as well. Westcott makes one, I think. This one used to be made for Profoto that was actually made by Datalight. The thing is, what makes this different than a snoot is three things. Did I say three things already? One is that you can focus it. Two is that attachments go inside of it, and three is that you can add certain softenings to it. So it's a little bit different than a snoot. The other thing this is for, and we can actually do it because, you know, why doesn't everybody likes to do this, is really you can throw patterns with it. So this is, again, framing shutters. They're like one of my favorite things because they allow you to do the slashes and stuff, which I'm a big fan of that. But if you just want to use this for, let's say we're making a noir film, because you know that's what I do, a film noir. I just like to say it. Today we're making a noir. You know, we can put a, yeah, you can kill it, yep. We can put a, all right, who knows what this is? Yeah, it's a window, that's right. You get Adorama gift certificate on the way out. No, I can't say that. I'm sorry, take it back. No gift certificate. All right, we got a window. You want to be, you know, Alfred Hitchcock. Throw a window on the background. And what's cool about this is it's not as big of a deal with DSLRs, which a lot of people use now. I mean, if it's a noir, you'd want a sharp window, right? That's basically how you do it. But if you wanted to not make it look like it's a sharp window, we could actually come in here and, what do you call it when the background's out of focus, Seth? Depth of field, right? So we could fake it. Fake it till you make it, right? So this allows us to do this, right? We can actually throw a shadow on her face, you know, like this, and we can, you know, again, we can sharpen it and we can soften it. And just add a little bit, and we can actually have it sharp on the wall. It's not, yeah, it's not really in the shot. I have to go from the other way. Switching sides. That's how I get my exercise. Right, we can make it like this, and then we could also make it sharp on her, but we could also make it more diffuse on her. As much or as low as we like, right? And obviously this can be controlled by the camera as well. You can just have a little bit of it, she could step into it. I mean, there's all different ways that we can use this in our shot, right? It could just be barely touching her. And of course you could put different gels on it. So there's lots of different ways you can throw a pattern. That's another use of this. It's real simple, but that's easy, right? Throwing patterns is very basic. Other question?
This one.
A magnifying glass. We've actually used magnifying glasses before. It basically, when you put light through a magnifying glass, it focuses it and basically makes a very tight beam. You could do that. You might end up burning the person, so be careful. Same.
Pretty big. That'd be big.
It would, yeah, it would be hard to do. What's interesting about a lot of this stuff is there's lots of ways to do things, but sometimes they make tools to do the things because the tool just makes sense, right? And a lot of these things can be rented, but it's always fun to play. I mean, one of the best ways to make patterns like this is just to get a set of shades, like window shades, you know, and then hang them up and just throw a light through it. It works really well. That's what I was gonna do, but I saw a window in here instead. Do I have shades? No, I must have shades. Oh yeah, there they are, blinds, I should say. Like you got blinds. I'm not gonna put it in there, well, I'll put it in. I was gonna say it takes a long time, but it takes less time to explain it than just to. So we can switch this out. Now we're getting into like more of a noir vibe.
Well, someone is saying black and white noir.
Yeah, we could do a black and white. Definitely. All right. So now we've got the and by the way, this goes on either light, the tungsten light or the, you know, we can use this to make a pattern. And of course I could probably make a black and white here, but I cannot remember how to do it, so I'll just do it here. Actually, I don't know how to do it here. Can you make the camera black and white, Seth? I'm sure there's a way to do it. Yeah. And we can make it black and white.
How's this?
Yeah. There we go, right. And then now we have this like,
When are you going to learn how to use your camera?
I will never learn.
Ever?
And we can combine things here, right? You're thinking there, you're going, Daniel, that's really cool, but what if I had the eye light as well? I mean, do you think for 1 second I don't have two of these things? Come on. Two is one is none. This is why you have the gloves, and I'm not using them. Okay, this is interchangeable. They do make some things that don't go in this, like there are only 4 LEDs, so make sure that you're careful about what you put in there. But these are metal, so they're fine. All right, here we go. So I'll get my core work. You gotta just, hold your abs in when you lift the C-stand so you don't break your back.
But you still have the gloves on your belt. So
I still have the gloves on my belt. The gloves are just for looks.
do you do anything for looks?
I do everything for I'm all
looked at
style, no
yourself?
substance. All right, so it's this is like we're gonna overexpose her a little bit.
Yeah, like car
Yeah,
headlights through a window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we want, we can take the other projector, because I got 2 of them.
But yeah, for the people at home, if you don't have projector heads, you can just hang blinds and then pull a light far away from them and it'll project. You just have to worry about the spill everywhere.
Exactly. And if you go back through the Adorama catalog, you will see that I have a video doing just that. It's got to be at least a year ago, a few years ago. That was, I think it was with Dave. All right. By the way, when you're using this projector, I probably should have said this before, but if you happen to buy this exact projector, you want to focus the light first with like this to make sure it's even inside the projector. Because you see how when I first put it on, it looked like that? Because you can defocus the light with the projector itself. Okay, cool. Then we're gonna go like this. I knew we were gonna get all dados by the end of this.
Yeah, the video stays up after it's live. Don't worry.
Yeah, oh, I need the framing shutters. You should have yelled framing shutters from the audience. You knew I wasn't doing it right. All right, here we go. Bust out the framing shutters. All right, so we're just putting these in here again to give me that little slash. Save these. Oh, sorry, no, it's flash. Okay. And again, we're going to bring it up just to kind of clean it up a little bit. And we can control how sharp or unsharp it is. We're getting closer to her with this. Yeah, we're just bringing this in. Obviously, the exposure is too hot right now. We'll bring it down. All right. And here we go. I'm just dimming it down to get the right amount of eye light. Just enough to blind her, but not enough to make any difference in the photo. Right. And then we can just add that. It is there, obviously. I'll show you. Subtlety is key here. Right, that's our eye light. Boom, boom, right? And of course, we can also dim this one. And because we're in black and white, so maybe there's just the end of daylight coming through the window. Now that's a little too hot. So we go like that. And this is the great advantage of dimmers. We used to have to do this all with scrims. God, that was so hard before. Yeah, and then you can create whatever patterns you like. Make sense? Boom, boom. Question, yes? So hot means overexposed. Yeah.
What's your camera focal length right now?
So the camera focal length should be about 50. 50. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, like I said at the beginning, you want to be kind of close because you want that feel, right? I could even get closer to her and then go with a slightly wider lens. Yeah, that's going to allow us to see how it feels like. It feels like we're closer to her because we are. And that's kind of important with this kind of work. You know, you want to be right up on it. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Oh, I see a green one.
No, that's
oh, okay. Oh, see, and she can look off. We can also light, okay, so go ahead and look off that way towards the window. Yeah, and and again, we can do all kinds of stuff, right? We can add just a little bit of a light coming this way as well. So really there's any number of things you can do here just to kind of create space that she's in, right? So you got to kind of think about how the light is, where it falls. Obviously I don't really need the eye light on this anymore, but I can soften that up. And then I can mess with the exposure a little bit to get it exactly where you want it.
Let's give a shout out to Cadence for standing still for an hour while Daniel's just fumbling around. Real class.
Story of my life. All right. So yeah, and this is it, right? So we're going back almost to the, see how you made that full circle? You like that, right? You knew it was coming around. We want to think about where the light's coming from. We want it to make sense. We want to have separation via lightness and darkness. And then, but we want to bring that shadow in, and we want the lights to be close, right? That's going to give us that depth. It's going to give us the drama that we want. Questions, thoughts, concerns? Question, I see a question.
There's concerns.
All right, there's always concerns. All right, we'll wait a couple seconds for the online people to catch up because they're not as fast as you guys. Any questions before we wrap up? Yes?
So, I was curious with the window framing. Could you potentially put like a little glass so that way you can spray water to get like a raining effect?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a good question. So right, so that's an excellent question, Mose. Basically, anything you put your light through, anything you put a hard light through, will project a shadow. So if we wanted to have like rainy window vibe, we could take a piece of glass, water maybe with glycerin on it or something, so it sticks, and then blast a hard light through it, and it will throw a speckled pattern. If you're going to do that, though, inside this, no. But if you did it on an actual piece of glass, you would have to move the light and the piece of glass at various distances to deal with your focusing. But I think if you put glass, you might be, we should try this. You might be able to make something that would do that, like not actually water, but like something that would create that effect, like a gel between two pieces of glass and stick it inside. The problem with water is that it would evaporate because it is hot.
You couldn't do it because there would have to be like micro dots.
Yeah, they have to be tiny, yeah, but you know.
This one.
Jean-Luc? No, okay. So when shooting noir, would you sacrifice details and shadows, or would you rather? Okay, so this really comes down to what your plan is. If it's always a good idea when you're shooting to shoot within the dynamic range of your camera. Back to that, right? Meaning that you might shoot it flatter than you actually want it to be. Because it's easy enough to go into your post-processing software and pull the blacks and pull the lights and make it brighter, right? But if I lose all the detail because I go outside the dynamic range, I can't ever bring it back if I want to. So generally speaking, I push it further during a demo because I want to show you what it's going to look like. But yeah, I probably would shoot it with log. Actually, can I do this really quickly? I think I can. Oop, let me move the camera. So being that I'm in here, okay, menu. Let's see if I can. Let's see how quickly. I'm going to go to log. Is that in the? That's in the video settings, right? I usually just leave it on there, but I turn it off.
It's on the 10-bit thing, I think. You have to do it from the HDMI. You want to do it?
Yep. Seth will do it.
One day you're going to wipe your own nose.
One day, but probably not. All right, so we're going to set it into log. So log is a flat profile in a sense, giving you all the maximum dynamic range we can get from the camera with this recorder and such. And what's going to happen is it's going to look flatter. It will as soon as I turn off. Is it in log?
You want to take it out of black and white, right?
No, leave it in black and white.
I'm pretty sure it's in log because I have it in 10-bit and 10-bit's log, isn't it?
Click on it. There's two options in there in this camera. Where is it 10-bit? Go back to the HDMI setting. There should be two options. One of them is, there you go.
HDL and log.
And log, there you go.
All right. Do you want it in black and white?
Yeah, why not?
Well,
but it won't be, right? Because in log, think of a log, it's not.
Oh, it's not going through the Adamus anymore.
Oh, really?
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Okay.
Took a second.
Log is not raw, because there is raw as well, but think of it as a still photograph more closer to that. It's giving you the most detail. So when I shoot it, I would use log, right? So it would look flat like this, like you're looking at it. And what you can do is you can apply to it a, what's called a LUT. And what the LUT does is it gives you the feel of different things. So in this case, the LUT that I have happens to be standard like Nikon color, whatever for the video. So it should look pretty decent on the screen, right?
It's still not putting logs to the external HDMI for some reason.
Oh, probably because of the way I have it set up. Display maybe?
Sorry, guys. It's Dan's first day.
Well, I don't normally.
We don't normally do video demos. This is for Filmmaker Week. So while he's filming with this, if you guys are watching at home, this has been Filmmaker Week. So all week we've been doing filmmaking demos. We had Matteo here earlier talking about a film he did. We have a video dropping every week from other filmmakers doing setups. So check out the rest of the channel as well. And but don't leave yet. You know, Dan's still doing it. Make him feel special.
No, it should be doing it because the TVs are showing it.
That's what I'm beaming out, and that's what's coming out of that. That's
The TVs look perfect.
flat. All right.
Well, because watch.
Dan, look at your Adamus. Dan, do me a favor. Look at your Adamus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right. Didn't go through.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not. Display, maybe? Sorry, guys, it won't go through. There is a way to do it. I don't know how to do it because I don't usually do this. But basically, you can have it go out through other monitors so that your audience can see it. But basically, you can see the flat, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. I just have no idea how to do it. I mean, I don't normally go out to a thing, but basically,
Nobody does.
yeah. Never do it. What's the question? This gives room for adjustments in both the light and the dark. Exactly. Basically, when you go into your video editing software, you can then do your full color correction. You get a lot more movement. So what the LUT does is it gives you a baseline, right? It's going to get all the colors right. And there's all different LUTs you can apply, black and white LUTs. You can apply, different ones that have different vibes. People sell them. They're kind of like, they sell them like presets. Make your own. But basically, unless you're doing an actual film and you want to make sure the LUT's correct. In fact, a lot of times, if you're on like a bigger film, the director of photography and the art director and stuff will get together, maybe with the director too, and they actually create their own LUT. So again, this is a very specific thing to filmmaking, but you would shoot it flat to answer the question. You'd shoot it with enough range. So if you're doing still photography, make sure you shoot raw. Make sure you got some detail, right? In both your highlights and your shadows. Then you can always crunch them together to make them more contrasty.
Because you're always grading in video.
Like grading,
You're always
yeah.
color grading in video.
Exactly. I mean, Okay, cool. Other questions? That's very specific to not me. So I'm not a colorist. I think it's what colorist. Is that what's called most? Yeah, I'm not a colorist, so it's hard. Can't give you exact. LUT is kind of like a preset, but it's not permanent. It's like it stands for lookup table. It allows you to see what the final thing will look like in the final, close to it anyways, in the final process.
It's a preview.
It's a preview, yeah. Thank you, Photosapiens. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up because now you're getting into next year I will learn all about video editing and I'll come back and do a video. But for now, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, jump up and down, do the hokey pokey. Give a shout out to Cadence. She'll be in the notes.
Hit this for all the events page. So all the other events, just scan this QR code right here, guys.
Yep. Scan that QR code. I pointed in the right direction, so I did that. I practiced all week for that to make sure I pointed in the right way. Nothing like pointing in YouTube and it's the wrong way. Go over here. It's like, there's nothing there. Anyways, if you have any other questions, throw them, well, you can ask me now. Throw them in the chat or the comments below and I will check them in a couple of days and answer them if I am capable. Otherwise, I'll make Seth do it. Thanks everyone for, what's the next thing here? Oh, we don't know. Check Adorama events. You'll see what's going on. Usually almost every Thursday, something goes on the web, on the YouTube channel. So if you're here in the store, this event space, if you haven't been here before, is back. Or if you have been here before, it's going to be a regular thing. I don't know the whole schedule. That's what that thing is. Come back. The more people that come in, the more events they'll have, the more stuff that goes on. So if there's something you want to see, let us know, and we will do our best to deliver.
Thanks, guys.